and welcome to another episode of the ENT Youth Services Podcast. ENT Youth Services is a nonprofit organization which strives to transform opportunity youth to become individuals with essential life skills that are necessary to make a valuable contribution in their communities. We have a special two-part episode for you today on the topic of youth and their relationship with the police. We're happy to have two special guests, retired Detective Bruce Tapscott and current Officer Tony Sharpe, both of the Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C. They are joined by our host, Kylar Wiltz, and two of our youth partners, Jaylin Sharpe and Sophia Greenfield, to have a candid conversation on the current climate of policing and how the youth can shape the future of our country's police departments. Okay, let's get to the show.
Hey everyone, thank you again for joining us for another episode of the ENT Podcast, sponsored and ran by ENT Youth Services, where we're currently striving to empower, nurture, and transform opportunity youth to become individuals with essential life skills that are necessary to make a valuable contribution in their communities. As usual, I'm the host. My name is Kylar Wiltz, and today we have a very special treat for all of our listeners. This is our, the first episode of our two-part series where we're speaking to some police officers from the DC area and, just kind of having a great conversation, some healthy discourse, and begin to, understand each other and bridge that gap. So we also have today one of our fabulous youth partners, Sophia. Sophia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Sophia. I'm 17. I'm a senior and been a part of ENT for about 5 months.
Okay, great. We also have, is Jaylin on right now?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, Jaylin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jaylin. 14 years old. I'm a freshman in high school, and I've been a part of ENT for over a year now.
Great. Now we could have our two amazing police officers also introduce themselves. Officer Bruce, you can go first.
I'm retired Detective Bruce Tapscott.
I'm Officer Sharpe. I'm working out of the 5th District and, happy to be here. And I've been on the force since 2005. I'm actually at work right now, so Officer Bruce knows how that is.
I do.
When you're constantly working. But it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And it's great to have you. So as I mentioned previously, this is our second episode. Our first one was on mental health. And, again, from Dr. Forrester, she had the idea of, introducing our audience to some police officers who have dedicated their lives to service and also care a lot about their community. And so the idea was basically brought to, have that discourse to where we can kind of have a safe space to exchange, how we as young Black adults, young Black teens, how we just kind of feel within the current social climate, but also as as Black men who are, in the police force, who provide that unique perspective, things that we can kind of do to continue to build our relationship and, overall solve the problems that we have in our community. So, I guess the way we can just kind of do it is just bounce a couple things off. Well, I know Sophia, she said something previously, and we were just talking about it. So I know she has some great questions, just some things that she would like to say. So Sophia, would you like to start?
How would you go about approaching a teenager who could have done something wrong, knowing that they're more than likely scared of confrontation?
Are you directing that at the older school or the newer school philosophy?
I'll take both. I'll take the older school first.
Okay. It doesn't matter, be you teen, adult, or whoever. you always go first respecting that person's rights, respecting that person as an individual, not knowing what they've dealt with, not bringing your own personal thoughts or feelings or prejudices into that particular situation. And you try to maintain a level of, and that's where you're going to gain the respect of the younger as well as the older people in your community. And that's when you're going to be effective for your community and as a police officer. You have to do it out of respect for that person from the very beginning.
I'm gonna agree with that. If you want to call it the new school, it's the same thing. Regardless of what you might have been through, how you might feel at that time, being a professional, first and foremost, you always got to engage the situation with respect. And you'll get more, as they say in the old school, you get more with honey than you do with anything else. Yeah. So you got to engage it with respect, treat them with respect. And the only way to get respect is to give respect. So you got to start off there.
Cool. I really like both of those answers. I feel just in like a very general sense of speaking, because I mean, again, we're all probably gonna end up on different paths in life as far as occupational as well. But respect is always such a universal ideal, universal moral. The idea is to give respect to earn respect. So then again, this is me asking a question from being a younger adult. But even in the context of respect, right? What could it be said to individuals, specifically on minority backgrounds, who may view it sometimes as, even when they do come with respect, they're met with disrespect by those on the other side, of those who just in that situation specifically have more power than them?
The first thing you can do is abuse your power. We've seen that over the course of the last few years, what that's done for officers. You can go from George Floyd all the way back. It's been going on for since we as African Americans been in this country. So treatment of us has always been at a different level. With that in mind, you have to approach, as a police officer, if you're a conscious police officer, you're not going to go with the same mentality of, say, someone that back in our day, what they did was they recruited police officers from West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Georgia, from a lot of southern places or places that did not have minorities. And so they were dealing with people they did not know as a people. Sometimes we can get a little boisterous where you and I may not think anything of it, but them, they feel threatened. So you have to keep those things in mind and make sure that you don't buy into that, because it's easy to get caught up in a culture in the police department, and they may want to teach you one way, but again, you have to use what you've learned over the course of your lifetime and add that in to make sure you don't get in those type of situations. You can go through a whole career and not abuse anyone. That's not difficult. It really is. And nor should.
That's good. That's a great answer. Do we have any insight from the new school?
Well, I'm going to agree with everything he just said. I always look at it like this: knowledge, experience, and just on the job training are some of like the greatest things you could have. If you've been through it, you know how to deal with it. Growing up in the neighborhood, and like you said, they back in the day they hired officers from those southern states that had been through things in the past. Going all the way back to like the Jim Crow laws and things like that. So they had been through it. and they knew how to treat people that were going through it so that they wouldn't get mistreated while they were going through it. If that makes sense. So, having people that understand the situation and bringing in people that can relate to what's going on in the city makes a big difference. And they go through that now, in different areas where you place police officers that don't know how to act in those areas. So if you put somebody that comes from money in the hood, he's not going to know how to act or interact with the hood.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So you gotta have the right element with the element. And it may sound kind of funny, but sometimes you need an officer that had the silver spoon in his mouth in the silver spoon area, because they know how to treat the silver spoon people.
Exactly.
And a less powerful officer who might have broken the hood, that makes it in that area.
Mm-hmm. That's great. It's crazy because I'm sorry, Officer Bruce.
What makes it difficult, I know nowadays, is the youth, the younger folks don't respect authority, be it police officers, teachers, or whatever. There's a culture now that officers have to deal with that we didn't have to deal with back in my time as a police officer. There was a certain level of respect that just went along with the job. Nowadays, it's almost even talking to a police officer. If you're with your peer group and you're seen just hanging out with a police officer, just sharing a laugh, you're looked at differently. Where back in the day we had what was called officer friendly in the school. It was a program that officers didn't come in to police the students. They came in to interact with the students, be friends with the students, make sure that the students felt safe. Completely different culture nowadays. Now the police in there, metal detectors, just waiting for something to just break off. Different environment altogether.
So, I mean, I think that we're all on the same page as that, because when you mentioned the officer friendly and whatnot, our police officer that was at my school, I forgot what they called them. I think it was I forgot what the name of it was, but he was a cool officer himself as an individual, but his specific job was more so, like you said, to serve as an enforcer. And it skews the lines, I understand that, you're very cool. And even a lot of the kids that would also get in trouble, they know as a person, you're a cool person. But, once you become a police officer or that's your specific job, to a lot of people, it really skews the line. And I think it really touches on, you both said, that abuse that some people take. And I'm not saying our officer at all was abusive at all. He was an amazing officer, was great with us. But this is more so on a broader scale of things. And I would also like Jaylin and Sophia just talk about, from their perspective and this perspective of their peers, why is that more so the relationship?
Well, I guess I can go. I guess the give respect to get respect aspect of your answer a couple minutes ago. Knowing that, I guess our generation's a lot more progressive, and I guess I agree, doesn't really respect authority. How would you go about a situation with a teenager knowing that they don't have the same mindset they did maybe 40 years ago with trying to make it as nonviolent as possible?
Well, from dealing with that on a daily basis, it's never the same. Let me say that. It's never the same. Every situation is different. Every person is different. All right. The first thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to come in there and think that this little silver piece of tin right here rules everything that's going on. All right. I got to understand the situation. And like I tell people on the job all the time, this is not me. This is what I do. It's not who I am. All right, because I'm a dad. I'm Jaylin's dad. I'm a dad. I'm a military serviceman. I got 27 years in the U.S. Army. I'm a husband, and I do a bunch of other things. So I try to relate to them to see what's going on. All right. So first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna come in there. Like I said, I'm gonna give you the respect. I'm not just gonna call you by your first name, or I'm not gonna come in there. It's Sophia. I'm gonna start off with Miss Sophia. I'm gonna give you that respect. All right. I'm not gonna come in there and just accuse you of being guilty of what's going on. I'm gonna come in there and get the situation. There's always three sides to every story. So I want to hear your side, the other person's side, and then I want to put them both together and get the truth. All right, and I'm sure Detective Bruce can really relate with that because that's what he did as a detective. So he knows that you got to evaluate the whole situation. Just because the radio might come across and say that you did something, I'm gonna come in there first and I got to find out. I got to do my investigation first before I just go in there and assume you guilty and throw you in handcuffs. And that's where a lot of us go wrong. A lot of times they do that because unfortunately, you might get some officers who's scared of the person that they're going to encounter.
Exactly.
So the first thing they're going to do is try to beat them down, talk to them rough, put them in handcuffs, and then they can talk to them. All right, I don't have to do that. I'm going to come in there, like I said, I'm going to treat you with respect. I'm going to figure out the situation first. And by the time we figure it all out, if I have to detain you or arrest you, you will understand that I'm doing this because of what happened and that you will be taken care of and treated like a human being, like a respectful human being, even though I have to arrest you. All right, so you'll know why I'm doing it, what the purpose is, and on the scene, I'm going to try to help you get some type of resolution and lead you in the right way of who you need to talk to get you straight with your situation. So that's what I'm gonna do.
Absolutely. When I joined the police department, again, this was 1970, so we're talking about just 7 years after civil rights legislation was passed. So our generation of officers and those that even came before me, minority officers, not only had to deal with those prejudices on the street, but they also had to deal with those prejudices within the department itself. So you had to look both ways. It was like crossing a highway. With cars going full speed, you had to always look both ways because your community may not appreciate and care for what you're doing, and then your fellow police officers didn't understand what being African American meant and didn't care anything about you as well, or the people that they were trying to police. So you take all those things in. As soon as you get in uniform, as soon as you get out on the street, you have to put all that aside, or your job is to put all of those things. If you came in and you had a bad day at home, if you had a bad day in the station, you couldn't take, or you shouldn't take, any of that outside. Once you get out there and start dealing with the public, you can't do that. Like you said, you have to go out there and just be respectful, do your job, and like I said, if I have to arrest you, it's because of something you did, not of something I did.
Those are two very well-rounded answers. And again, to the point that you guys mentioned, like all the things that you do outside of your occupation, and being a father, being a serviceman, being on the force right after the civil rights movement. I think the thing that it does is specifically for our African American people that are police officers is it humanizes, and oftentimes I think a lot of people don't see police officers as being human anymore. It's like you're either, you're on that side, and you could never be on this side because you're on that side. But for us to be able to kind of bridge that gap and to get another level of understanding, I think us humanizing each other and again providing that respect, that mutual respect to each other is how we can get there. And I think that takes me to like my next question is representation, being able to see people that look like you in these positions, but also, having that mutual understanding oftentimes is tied to growing up in similar situations. You can't put just anyone in the hood that's never been to the hood and, so on and so forth. So, what do you guys think as far as representation in law enforcement and what that would do for myself and some of my younger peers?
Well, I think what needs to be done so far as that, the young people have to be concerned about their own environment. They have to be recruited within their own ranks, in their own neighborhoods. To go, I think one of the worst things that happens is recruiting outside of an area that you live in. You have no stake in that community. We have to find a way to bridge that gap between the community and those young folks that want something better for their community. We need them to join the ranks of the police department, be active in the community, and not be a part of the problem, but be a part of the solution to end this. If you don't like the police coming down on you and treating you a certain way, the only way that you can do anything about it is join them, so you can treat them different, so you can do something different, so you can make a better way versus just stand on the corner and hollering at the police officers that are there doing their job or trying to do their job. If you think you can do it better, come on, put the badge on, go through the training, and help your community.
I think you couldn't have said it any better. I know I keep saying respect. The first thing is, in order to do that, you got to respect yourself. We go into some of these communities and they stand right on the corner and eat and throw their trash right on the ground.
Right.
What do you expect people to think of you, or how do you expect people to treat you with dignity and respect when you don't treat yourself in that same manner? You know what I'm saying? And just like you said, we need more youth to join the police departments that understand what's going on and can relate to it. You know what I'm saying? But we're getting a lot of that in DC now, especially in my district. We get a lot of people that grew up in Northeast where I work. And so, they understand, they know what it is. And they know how to get to each area, how to get to each location. And that's a plus when you're coming in, because if you really got to save somebody's life, time is of the essence. You know what I'm saying? And how you get there. And if you know the area, you know the back roads, you know where the streets are, you know where all the other, the alleys and things are. You know where the crime is. I hate to say it. And, you don't, they say the best police officers were criminals before. But, you don't have to necessarily be a criminal, but you just know the area and know how to understand what's going on. Yeah, so I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah. I was born and raised in D.C. and went to public schools in D.C. So D.C. was home. And you always have a greater respect for home than you do any other place that you go. You have more at stake. If somebody comes to your front door and starts disrespecting your home, you do what you have to do to protect. And when they get back to recruiting, again, out of D.C. locally, which I believe they're trying to do, and it's just an opinion they should do, you're going to see a change. You're going to all the way around.
Good. So we're, sadly, we've come to our time limit for this episode. So we're going to start preparing for, the second part of this amazing conversation that we're having. So, before we let you guys go, definitely we always want the feedback on the podcast, what you guys think we should work on, what you guys think we need to improve, or even new topics. So in the meantime, for more information on our podcast and other initiatives by ENT Youth Services, visit us at entu.com, or you can catch us on Twitter at ENT_youth or on Instagram at ENT Youth Services. So thank you all for joining us for this podcast, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.